All right, welcome everybody to Writing for Furry YouTube as a panel. I'm Tempo, and
I'm Arrkay, and together
we
we create and write Culturally Effed on YouTube and Roku.
and for those of you not in the know, Culturally Effed is a furry pop culture media analysis channel. Um, so we talk about furry culture, furry media made within the fandom and outside the fandom. We do interviews, we watch B movies, and comment upon them. Um, and we have the channel has been guest of honor at conventions and has won awards and stuff.
I would
So
I would say we've been guest of honor once at Camp Feral
once,
2019, and we have one award, which is directly behind me. It's our Ursa Major Award
right?
for Best
And
Magazine.
the distinctions have gotten a little blurred in the 21st century. Uh, but anyway, and then the channel has been around since I've been in
2015, I think, is when we
2015.
published our first video. Though
Yeah.
I had started working on it about 6 months before that, so technically I've been working on it for 7 years.
So it's been a decently established channel. And so feel free to check us out once you finish watching this. Um, so the first thing that we wanted to talk about is the process, because when people get excited about a potential YouTube project, uh, one of the things that often gets overlooked is what does the process of creating a channel and running it actually look like. Um, so when somebody asks me about that, one of the first things that I talk about is, because I want to make it for a YouTube channel about this thing. I'm like, okay, well, what I kind of use as my litmus test is like, do you have enough content to do like 20 or 30 videos? Like, you don't have to have it done, but like, do you have ideas enough to fill those? Because otherwise, you're going to be struggling to come up with ideas during production, and like, you might want to just scale the project back if you only have like one idea that you want to do, scale the project back and just tell yourself you're going to post a video so that you don't feel like you've failed for doing the thing you set out to do. Um,
Yeah, it's a
and
huge process. So, like, especially for anyone interested in starting, really just making one video is a big accomplishment, or a couple of videos, just to see what the workflow is like before you fully commit. I definitely, in as part of my post-secondary education, I did a small like YouTube series as a project, and that did give me a pretty clear idea of like what's involved with creating the idea, from idea to like recording to post-production to publishing, and that really helped prepare me to create and launch Culturally Effed, which was much more of like a direct, like, not student project. Though obviously it is still rather rough around the edges in those early episodes. And when I'd first conceived of Culturally Effed, the first dozen or so episodes were written with a linear progression of history in mind. So the very, very first episode of Culturally Effed is about like prehistoric art, and a couple episodes later we're talking about like Edwardian fiction, and then the finale of that first season was really talking about like the fandom itself, all centered around anthropomorphic animals. And then after that, like, all bets were off. We were just writing whatever we felt like writing and recording, until we did Fursuit History, which recently wrapped up. And that similarly sort of had a linear progression based in time. And a lot of research went into like each episode and kind of compartmentalized based on like the genre and medium in which we saw animal costumes, while still like taking care not to say anything culturally insensitive or look on any one particular culture in our mask episode, for example.
and so when you run like when channels run into that stuff, what I have seen as the best way to avoid it is just to do your homework and like don't be lazy. Like find people from that culture, talk to them, show them the thing. Like it you are in the furry fandom and it is a worldwide collection of people from all over the place. So you have a really big advantage when it comes to tracking down somebody to run something by if it's kind of referencing another culture. And like a lot of times they're just excited to see something happen. Like they're excited to see you using, I don't know, Polish furry stuff or whatever. Like, oh, if you have a comment on how the art style of the Russian furry community has these elements or something, and you talk to like Russian furries, they're gonna usually be excited that you're even just talking about them. And so, like, I would just say kind of reach out to your friends and like see, if you can find people who are willing to be sensitivity viewers and just kind of run it past them. Especially if it's at an early stage, it's easy. Like they can just look at your script. Um, and then I think before we move on to process, I also wanted to talk about how Arrkay's story of the early days of the channel brings up an important point of sometimes your project will evolve over time, and that isn't bad. Like
Mm-hmm.
that's okay. Like ultimately, this is art. This is self-expression. You want to be able to, you know, adapt to whatever it is you're into and excited about. And part of the reason we have culturally aft set up the way we do is so that we can say, "Oh, I'm really excited about Moomins. I'm really excited about the Peter Rabbit movies or whatever the heck." And then, I'm really excited about Hell Comes to Frogtown,
Yeah.
and I'm going to do a review of it, or I'm going to do an analysis of it. And that kind of freedom makes it easier for us to work on it because we can be excited about stuff and do the thing we're excited about.
Yeah,
And
like the
yeah,
the if I may interject, like the furry fandom
yes,
is itself a fandom, and by definition, it's getting excited over a thing. Often in furry, we get excited about things other furries are making, but just as often, it's outside media. So each video is sort of dedicated to what is the thing we are excited about that week. Though when I say week, I really mean months and months because that's how long it can take.
yeah, exactly. Like we are excited about that we have condensed into a weekly dose for you. Um, so yeah, so do you want to move on to talking about process a little bit?
By all means.
So, this is the how it's made for YouTube, for YouTube and YouTube in general. Um, so generally, you're going to start with just an idea you think is cool, um, and of those, there's a relatively low survival rate all the way through to the end of the process.
It's true. I
Um,
have like a document that I started right at the start of the channel, full of just like bullet point ideas of like this could be a video or this could be a video, and most of them are just collecting dust, and that's okay.
right, because that means that you have enough ideas that you can pick the best ones. Like that's what you need. And so because you don't want to pick something because it's the only thing left at the bottom of the barrel. Um so then like once you have your idea, um and you kind of have these like this nebulous like vague concept of it, I like to start taking notes about like the things that I find interesting, like why am I excited about this franchise? And then I can start to see kind of a pattern in that noise of like, okay, I'm not just excited because it's furries. I'm excited because they're doing this with the furry characters, or this, this has an interesting subtext or cultural context or something. And that's how we move to, for how I move anyway, to that second stage of like beginning to script write is, note taking. How have yours traditionally gone?
Very
In
similarly, usually it's down a wiki rabbit hole. of like interesting topic, and then sort of branching out to like where's the story. I rarely will just want to info dump. I don't think there's a lot of our videos are just info dumps. I try to find like a structure to put to it. Because we work in a lot of nonfiction, we do sort of have to create that structure, sometimes artificially. But, you know, if we're just talking about a media or whatever, then it's just breaking it down by topics and themes. Because in the end, these are essentially essays, 3 or 4 page essays on a topic we find interesting. But it really generally starts with like bullet point notes, or maybe like a page worth of like hastily written down like ideas that came to me while I was smoking weed.
And when we say essays, I know that a bunch of people are going to get scared, but you see essays all over the place in a day. Like, you see essays in TED Talks. Like, that's really just an essay. It has an intro, it has supporting ideas, and it has a conclusion.
Or blog posts are usually just essays.
Right. YouTube reviews are often, when you review a product on YouTube or a game or anything, it's got an intro, it sets you up, it tells you the main highlights, and then at the end they wrap it all up and tell you whether or not you should buy the thing. That's an essay. And so, like, don't feel constrained by this, because really all it is a game plan for you so that you can know that you're presenting your information in a way that your audience can get, because you want to make it easy for them, and conversely you want to have an idea of what to do next when you've completed a step, so that you don't just go, I don't even know where to write next, what to write about next, like where to go from here.
If you do find yourself in that position, that's a time to take a break, because burnout is a real thing that I'm sure we will get to. And the algorithm strongly discourages breaks and burning out, but I try not to think too hard about the algorithm.
Yes, like, I mean, like all YouTubers, we have a special altar in each of our homes with candles burning 24 hours a day dedicated to the algorithm. But beyond that, we pay it very little mind.
Yeah, like people do notice that Culture Left doesn't post that often, especially anymore, and part of that is just avoiding burnout, and because we have jobs and lives outside of it. And, you know, we've sort of gotten into a good pace now where, like, we will get into, like, a script writing phase and just be writing scripts, and then move on to a production phase, and where we film all those scripts. And then one by one, we will edit them and upload them to our Patreon. So usually at about a pace of, like, I want to say it's like a little bit more than a video a month. And that's across like all of our different shows and concepts, from a tempo talk to a regular episode or a bone zone or a pup lift. I'd say 3 weeks, 3 to 4 weeks is how often I can get a new video out if I'm like working hard at the editing bay.
The existence of regular episodes implies that we also have very special episodes of Culturally Aft.
They're all very special episodes. But we do all sorts of weird experiments too. Like, we do lo-fi playlists. We've done panels for other people. We are kind of a spaghetti at the wall kind of channel, and sometimes it does not work to our benefit. So sometimes it helps to have like a clear focus, which we don't have.
Well, and ultimately, I would say that create the things that you want to create and worry about the like selling them aspect later. Like, don't worry about that. Like, have fun doing the thing you're doing,
for sure,
because that's how we have gotten even as far as we have gotten, is we're doing things we like doing. So once you have ideas for a script and you kind of have that structure, like beginning, middle, and end, like, you know, give me your main idea and then the supporting ideas, and then give me the takeaway. That's your structure. And then once you have a script, generally I recommend showing it to somebody else, or at least not looking at it for a week.
Yes. Editing and a second set of eyes is priceless.
yeah, like we pass scripts back and forth. Like I know that um, if you're familiar with our channel, like it looks sometimes like, oh, this is a Tempo talk, it's made by Tempo, or oh, this is a, Bone Zone, it's made by Arrkay. But we are hot potatoing things back and forth regularly, um, even though like one person is taking the lead. And really, that's quite helpful because it means we can say, does this make sense? Is this is my point getting across? Like, is there something else I should be talking about that I should add here? Is there an important pun I haven't made? Things like that.
I think I could be wrong, but I believe Culturally Apt just posted or is about to post its 200th video. It's a lot of content. I'm just
Yeah.
I have the studio open up in my browser, scrolling around and like, have we broke 200 yet? And we did. But
Nice.
we haven't released all of those videos yet. There's still a couple on the back burner. Sorry, that just like surfaced up.
Trivia. You heard it here first, folks, because we actually didn't know before this moment.
Yeah, I think if it's not the previous Bone Zone that just got published, it'll be the next video that's published. That'll be like the official like 200th video.
Sweet.
That's fun.
Yeah, and like, the the more content you have, it seems, regardless of platform. Like if you have quality content and you have a bunch of it, it becomes that much easier for people to justify subscribing. Like, when I post stories to Archive of Our Own or So Furry or FA, like the fact that I have 50 other stories there that people would be interested in results in more people subscribing than if they went there, saw that I had like one thing, and then went, oh, I guess this guy doesn't really do anything besides this one I liked. And so it's sort of a snowball effect. Like the more stuff you have, the easier it is for people to like justify it in their minds. Thus, the more like it like reinforces that. And so when you start out, you're going to be discouraged because like no one will comment and no one will see it.
It's a
But
slow start. It's very rare for a YouTube channel of any topic or creator to like get lots of views and subscribers right away. I would say if you start a new channel, and even if you are uploading regularly and you're posting across social media or whatever and making all of your friends watch it, it's still going to be like about a year before you get like 100 subscribers. But each of those milestones, the bigger and more exciting they are, the harder they get to attain. So like getting your first 100 subscribers is more difficult than getting your first 1,000 subscribers. And that is harder than getting your first 5,000 subscribers, etc. So like the goalpost kind of moves. But celebrate those victories when you get them. But like,
yeah, it's like gold in an RPG. Like it's significantly harder to get your first 100 pieces of gold than the subsequent 100.
Yeah.
So once you have a script and you've kind of like, shown it to someone or like just gone over it again after taking a break, our next step is to examine like what kind of like additional media we might need for it, kind of like just to get things ready.
That always helps. We don't do it every time, but when we do, it usually makes the post-production a lot easier.
Yeah,
because there was like a baseline of like funny memes or clips from the video we're talking about, like already.
Or the trailer, or downloading the trailer to the movie,
yeah,
or something, so you have it on hand, because ultimately everything on the internet is impermanent, and so I have been burned before by assuming something will continue to be around, and then a month later I come back and it's gone. So, then like let's talk about actually just shooting film. So
that's the easy part.
Yeah, like I mean, with audio, with video, like work with what you have. Like if you have a webcam and that's what you got, awesome, fine. Go to town.
Mm-hmm.
One thing that I have definitely learned on this project is something is better than nothing.
Yes, something is better than nothing, and things are better done than they are perfect. So you
Yeah,
can fuss about a script forever and try to show it to as many people as you can, but that script isn't going to do anything if it's not ultimately put on the internet somewhere.
yeah. And that's very much a like scary thing because you
Mm-hmm.
want to be able to put your best foot forward. Like you want to be able to make this perfect, amazing, best you could make it thing that you put 100% of your effort into, and that is fine. Like that's a normal feeling, but it means that you will very rarely get things out, and you will not have that
Mm-hmm.
iterative process of completing a project and learning about all the
Yeah, and
steps of
then
it
you're
so you
just
can
gonna feel
improve.
bad that you don't have a finished project. That you've had
Yeah.
this like unfinished project on your Google Drive or on your desk. Um, so even if it is a little rough around the edges, especially if you're just starting out, people are gonna forgive you if your early videos like are a little rough. Just put it out there. It's a risk. It
Um,
sometimes feels a little worrisome, and sometimes you don't get those like good vibes back, and you don't get all the views you were expecting to. But that's part of the game, unfortunately.
and like, don't like set your expectations and like recognize that you are not a robot, and you
Mm-hmm.
will have emotional reactions to things, and you will get tired, or you like other events in your life will like knock you out of a creative mode for a while, and having different parts of this process like available to you and knowing kind of like what they are
Mm-hmm.
means that, even if you're bummed out, well, I'm not really in the mood to like bebop around in front of a camera, but I could probably, look for sources for funny memes or whatever to put in my video. Like having that process laid out in front of you means that you can work on stuff even if you're not 100% feeling it that day. And like the actual video stuff, like there are lots of like really good tutorials that aren't specific to furry, but like furry specific video stuff, I would say would be like um, be prepared to dub if you are in fursuit.
Yeah, I've tried both, and I think I like dubbing audio over better. It is a little more work. Like, there's a couple extra steps, but generally you're not muffled. You can focus more on your physicality when you're in fursuit and syncing to the audio. Especially if like your mouth doesn't even move anyway, then whatever, you can say whatever you want.
Yeah.
If you do have an articulated jaw, then you do sort of have to get practice at kind of syncing to your own voice. But I think you get a better quality from it. And there are YouTubers and furries who will disagree with me and prefer that more improv style, and that's fine too. Um, Speaking of production, I would also generally say audio is more of a priority than video. So if you're going to invest in a piece of technology, get a good mic before you get a better camera, is what I would recommend.
And by good, we mean like, you know, a Yeti or something. Like you don't have to drop like
Yeah,
like $1,000 on a mic.
yeah,
$1,000 mic does not sound 10 times better than $100 mic.
yeah. I got lapel mics. I got off of I think it was Amazon. Don't shop at Amazon. But I got them for like $30, and they just plug into your phone. Done. There's your portable mic. You can record audio wherever. Um,
I use a famous mic that was on the local TV station, Channel 5, for many years, and I salvaged it when they got rid of it
hmm.
and repaired it. And that is my now mic that I use for everything when I'm not just on a headset. And it didn't, like it cost me nothing because it was broken and I fixed it. But like you don't have to go broke doing this, and you can kind of gain your equipment a
For
piece at a
sure.
time.
Like
Um,
people make viral videos using nothing more than their phones.
yeah. So, as far as production, like if you have someone to run the camera,
Hmm.
awesome. Uh, if you have a way to set it up so that you
Yeah,
can
it
even just
really
view your
it
script on
depends
your
on it
phone?
depends on the type of content you're making. Like if you're making video essays like we are, it's easy just to set up your tripod, maybe put a monitor or something behind it to be your teleprompter. But if you're making like fursuit skits, you're gonna want some extra help. You're gonna need your handler to have like a bottle of water ready. You can press the shutter on the camera, even if it is on a tripod or if they're holding it. It can be pretty arduous to try to do it by yourself. That being said, I do it by myself sometimes, so it's doable. But if you can get a friend, do.
In life in general, that's our life advice.
Yeah.
If you can get a friend, you should probably have at least one friend.
Yeah, like the bone zone, like I don't have like full paws. Right, I have just those gloves for Rattles' claws. So that's a bit easier to manipulate like a keyboard or hit record on everything, have it all set up, and then get into costume, and then all you have to do is press the button when you're ready. That sort of stuff. Planning ahead, like a lot of the production, like so much of it is just prep, and then like a tiny little bit of it is actually recording.
Yeah. And if you go in prepared, you save a lot of time fixing things. Like
Yeah.
fixing stuff takes so much longer than prepping for it.
Yeah, absolutely. Like it is a lot harder to fix something in post than it is to just record it properly in the first place.
Yeah, so like when I have had to like, re-record a section of a video or a podcast or whatever, I have to then like make it sound like it did then, and I have to make my voice the same, and I have to make,
Mm-hmm.
like I have to make sure that I'm doing all these things exactly like I did before, or it's going to sound different. Um, and so like it's definitely worth it to do a little bit of homework before you go in. Um, and so let's see. Once you have your video recorded, you're going to want to edit it. Another important lesson I have learned here is the best editing would be having to do no editing at all. And so if you can, again, plan so that you don't have to do much more than cut out the time between your takes where you slipped up and said
Mm-hmm.
something wrong. Okay,
Or
we're going to
even
delete
just
that.
getting rid of like the ums and likes and awkward pauses. That can really shorten a video if that's all you like laser focus in on. I think
Yeah.
we did a panel last year. It was a pre-recorded pandemic era panel, and it was like an hour and 5 minutes, and they needed it to be a tight 60 minutes. So I just went through and I found all of the ums and likes and just cut those out, and there was the 5 minutes. It only
And
like each of them are only a few frames long, but they add up.
and we are desensitized to little teeny cuts like that because of YouTube.
Yeah.
So don't worry, people won't freak out that you like suddenly went "Duh," and you're like slightly over now and you're
Mm-hmm.
saying something else, but it's the middle of the sentence. That we are used to that.
Mm-hmm.
So once you do that, uh, again, like at like post production, like when you're editing, I find that I want to set it aside for like a few days, kind of like with the script, and look at it again.
Sure. Yeah. Or even just exporting a draft to show someone, just like you would
Yeah,
for your written script.
yeah.
Because you can
It
sometimes find little mistakes or errors or a factual error if it's nonfiction that needs correcting, and you need to surgically remove that or worse, replace it in your video. And that can be a lot of work and can be a little daunting. It's certainly something that when it happens to me, I get like so discouraged and I don't want to work on the project at all. And I'm like, oh, why I have to fix this 2 second clip where I said two things instead of one thing.
I know. No, again, like don't treat yourself like you're a robot is definitely good advice because one time I was done editing this like 3 hour interview and I was really excited about it
Mm-hmm.
and I was editing in the last 5 minutes or
Yeah.
so of like outro and Audacity crashed and corrupted my file and I had to start
Yeah,
over.
that pretty much regardless of what your medium, if you're like an
Ah.
artist or you're a writer or you're a creator, that happens to everyone at some point. on regardless of what project it is, that you will near the completion and something bad happens and it all gets lost and you have to start basically from scratch. This will happen eventually, and it is the worst.
Yeah, it is absolutely the worst,
I
and it
don't know what
makes
to
you...
like. Just remember to save. You know, if you're
Yeah.
paranoid it's going to happen, save a copy.
Yeah.
Then you don't have to start from scratch. I can't say what. I don't recall the last time that happened to me, but like, you know, it happens enough times that it scars you, and you're just constantly saving. You
No,
change
yeah,
the settings to autosave.
I melted away into a puddle of goo. I was useless after that. I was just don't even know,
Mm-hmm.
and that'll happen.
Yeah,
So
the post production is really the most emotional part of this process. It's a lot of work mentally to finally compile it all together and really kind of add those finishing touches. And this is often where better done than perfect comes in a lot too, because you can spend forever tweaking something. But just like a script that's sitting in your hard drive, it's not going to do anything unless it ends up on the internet eventually.
Yeah,
I
exactly.
think brings us to publishing, which is the final stage of video creating. For Culturally F,
Yeah.
like I mentioned earlier, we usually create a backlog at every stage. So when we have a few videos are pre-uploaded and like the Patreon patrons have access to it early, so they get, you know, checkbox there, done. You don't have to think about that. Then we actually have to decide when we are going to release them and in what order. And sometimes that can sort of mess things up. Like in the instance of Pup Lift, I decided to make the editorial decision to switch 2 episodes because I thought it would, you know, it flows better with the story. So Tempo had to go back and change episode 2 to episode 3 and vice versa. So it added a little more time, but I think
it was worth
better,
it
yeah.
in the end. And like another thing we've done is we have multiple types of content on the channel, and thus we want to stagger different things so you're not just getting 5 of the same kind of
Otherwise,
video in a
people might
row.
think this is the Puplift channel or the Bone Zone channel, and this is a channel where those things fall under the same umbrella.
Yeah. And then let's see. So let's talk a little bit about channel like management and stuff, and like Patreon and things. If you are not concerned with making money on your furry videos, more power to you, because you probably weren't going to make that much money anyway.
I definitely think it is very tertiary. It is an incidental thing to make money off of anything on the internet. If it is your goal, especially from the start, if you're starting from scratch, I'm going to say it's not a good goal.
Yeah, you should get like a normal job and earn money with that. If that is,
this is coming from someone who literally had that goal and it didn't work. I'm telling you, it's not going to work. Unless you have a genius idea and you're going to get millions of views, which could happen. You know, the internet's a strange place. Who knows what's going to go viral? But that's incredibly unlikely, and it is the exception to the rule, not the rule. The rule is you might make a couple bucks every year, and if you get popular enough to support something like a Patreon, that's a couple more bucks, but certainly nothing to live on. Maybe breaks even on some of the expenses, like if you're going to upgrade your microphone, it's something you can put that money towards, or like buying a backdrop or upgrading your fursuit.
This reminds me of my day job is teaching creative writing, and the college I'm at, I had this gal come in one time who was taking my accelerated creative writing class, so it was like 8 weeks, and she's like, yeah, I quit my job and I'm going to give myself 8 weeks, and you know, if I can't really become like a professional, I'm going to consider myself a failure. And I'm like, please go get your job back.
Yeah,
don't do this. This is going to go badly. Like, because first of all, like, okay, you consider yourself a failure, but now you are still stuck without a job.
Mhm.
Like, oh, I consider myself, oh, okay, well, I guess I'll just, crumble into dust now.
Yeah, like
No,
for
like,
YouTube, you're not even allowed to monetize until you have 1,000 subscribers. So you can't even turn on ads on your channel until you have at least reached that threshold, and even then, it's pennies. Like, you do not get money from YouTube. A video will get a good, decent video that we did recently was the finale for Fursuit History, and that got 18,000 views. And it only made, I don't know, $20 on ads. Like, not a ton. Not nothing, that's $20 we didn't have before.
yeah,
I'm excited about $20.
right. Like, if $20 blew past us on the sidewalk, we would pick it up.
Yeah. Yeah, okay, I have the analytics in front of me. It made $30.
Ooh.
So, like, that's almost 20,000 people. That's like 3 Anthrocons worth of furries. And we made
Yeah.
$30. So it's not a good business model. It is definitely a fun hobby. It is definitely cool. It definitely is worth it to get cool stuff like awards from the Ursa Majors or invited to a convention, or to do cool panels where we talk about the process.
Yeah. And so let's see. And then as far as like, receiving critique from strangers on the internet, I feel like we should note that just like with any other artistic endeavor,
yeah, strangers are going to comment on your stuff. It's not always going to be good.
And they're going to be completely out of touch from
Yeah.
your life, and so like they'll be in their own little
That's
world
right, yeah.
and commenting
People
based on what this means to them.
Old videos, and they have very strong opinions about Redwall. And that's like a 4-year-old video, and like I'm really past it, and like, okay, glad you're watching these videos though.
Allow it to be water off of a duck's back.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
yes, sometimes it's just internet being internet.
Yeah, like it's okay. That's just okay. Good. I'm glad that you.
Learn
right.
to recognize the constructive criticism and try to take it to heart, and like nothing's worse than like asking for feedback and then not taking it, and not like actually considering what it looks and feels like from an audience perspective. So taking critique is still very important, even if it is sometimes from unwarranted strangers on the internet.
Yeah.
But also
so
seek critique with that in mind, and remember that other people's opinions are important and matter, especially if you want other people other than yourself to enjoy your work.
Yeah, one of the best ways to get feedback on your art is to give feedback on other people's art, and then you can be art feedback buddies.
Mm-hmm.
I know various people who do podcasts and short stories and novels and things, and I work with them. I check out their stuff and I tell them what I think and whatever, and then they look at my stuff and tell me what they think, and that reciprocity means that you have people who will be like, oh yeah, I'll check out that person's stuff. I like what that person does. And that brings us to our last part, which is fixing things for the next time around. So like, no matter how well you are equipped to do YouTube stuff, when you walk in, you're going to like adjust your course and between videos, and like that again is going to mean that you're going to have differences between videos in style and like level of tech prowess and things like that, or even like what your format is, and that's okay. Like, that's normal. Like, you are learning, we are all learning. No one knows what they are doing anywhere. Like, when people look like they know what they're doing on YouTube, they have fooled you.
It's all a show, right? All the world's a stage and so on.
Yeah, exactly.
Even gender's a performance.
Right?
I
Um,
don't want to get too off the rails. So
my yeah,
publishing.
I perform I probably perform my gender pretty over the top, but the let's see, God, I own so many uh flamboyant button ups, but the anyway, the other thing that I wanted to run past everybody with our remaining 15 minutes or so is what we have in the pipeline, both as an update to our own viewers and as like an example of what a pipeline like looks like for people who are
Mm-hmm.
here on the panel side of things.
Before we completely move on from that, one more note on publishing. It is not enough to publish it on one platform like YouTube. You should always share it on every social media you are on, and share unabashedly. Don't like hound people, but it shouldn't exist just on one platform like YouTube. We post it to For Affinity, Weasel, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Most of that doesn't even matter. Like, we get maybe a dozen views from all those collective platforms, but what matters is that it's out there and creating that like brand awareness.
Yeah, like, and search engines care about stuff
Yes.
like that too, and like I occasionally throw it on Facebook
Mm-hmm.
and stuff like that, and it's just making it out there so that in a few years, when you Google the name of your thing,
It's
it'll
easier to
show
find.
up.
Yeah, and that would go for anything even beyond YouTube. Anything you make, you should always put it on a diverse platforms, or at least share a link to it on other platforms.
Yeah.
So that is my
So,
final note on publishing and like selling it and like kind of advertising yourself. And now we can move on to past and current and future projects of Culturally After the YouTube show.
our current series that we're working with are Culturally Eft proper, like the main series, which is our like literary analysis, pop culture, and like furry cultural analysis, stuff like that. And we have a Moomin episode in the pipeline for that. That one is basically centered around like the idea that like Moomin Troll, for those of you who are uninitiated in this world of Moomins, like they're like adorable marshmallow looking trolls from Finland, and they have like a like they live in a cute little cottagecore valley.
Mm-hmm. I think it's a very old property. You've probably seen it at least once in your life. I think people mistake it for like a Sanrio property, because
Yeah,
it sort of has those like anime elements, but it's actually Scandinavian.
and the and like the author of it, like the original author, is this like amazing bisexual artist from the 40s when she started working on these, who like is that like her persona is clearly the main character of this series. Like there are just all kinds of parallels, and like she in her life like acknowledged that this was like based on her and her family and her friends and like the people in her various relationships and like her like poly relationships she was in and stuff like that. And so like Moomin Troll is bisexual and like clearly like it's a kid's show, so it's not like he's like sleeping with them. Like he literally sleeps in the same bed as them occasionally, but like
It's not
it
sexualized.
right, it's not sexualized, but like he is clearly super in love with this gal who is like another marshmallow hippo, and is just like constantly like writing poetry to her, and she's like amazed by his like charm, and like he is Moomin is simultaneously like completely head over heels for this more human looking character who is a boy, and it's not commented on as negative by anyone in this equation. Like even the villains, like even what passes as villains in this show, don't really see this as something they could latch onto to like mock or belittle. This is just, oh, of course, you know,
Mhm.
he has that much love to give,
Anyway,
and like,
we should
go ahead,
talk
wrap it
about
up.
some other stuff.
So
We have
but
limited
that's
time.
the premise of that one. We also have another series called Puplift, which
Mm-hmm.
is a dog from the future explaining the future. And that one we have 4 more episodes of that one ready to roll. We have another series we do is Tempo Talks, where I interview people. We have the star
Yeah,
of
we don't need
Rock
to
Talk 2.
blast. We don't need to blast past Puplift. We can dwell a little longer on that. But I didn't want to spend too much time on the Moomin episode.
Oh, because I can.
Yeah, I understand.
You know, I will how I get when
That's what
movements
Culture
are
Left's all
involved.
about, is getting excited about media and then writing an essay about them and then filming that essay. But yeah, Puplift is one of our fiction works. It's Culture Left is starting to branch out. We're trying to experiment with new types of videos, partially just for our own creativity and just mixing it up and trying different things and learning along the way. So I think Puplift is a very cool step towards that and introducing our audience to something a little more whimsical, a little more like in universe, as it were.
And
Because making a million video essays does get a little tiresome after a while.
like that's why I mentioned like be willing to have your channel grow and develop. That's totally valid. Like you wouldn't expect a painter to paint the exact same way for their entire career. And so, you know, it's okay. And then on a related note, we've also got a couple short stories read by the author or by someone else,
Mm-hmm.
like another voice actor, that we have gotten on the channel or for the channel.
That's right.
Eh,
I am also working on a script about the 1950 movie Harvey. It will be called Harvey Speaks, and it is a sort of it's sort of like a dramatized video essay. It's a twist on like the video essay, but it's still kind of just a video essay. But it's like in character and from the perspective of Harvey. So I will be setting up a very bright lamp and silhouetting Rusty on something. So we will have a 7-foot tall rabbit, narrating what it's like to be gay in the 40s, and that'll probably pair really nicely with the Moomin episode. Kind of throwback queerness.
For those of you who aren't in the loop about Harvey, like that was the central metaphor of it. Is like
At
this
least I think
invisible.
so. You know, I
Yeah.
think at the time, or it might not have even been the author's intention, but like knowing what we know about like the lavender scare and how queer people were treated back then, and like the limitations media had on representing queer people, to me Harvey just screams like, this is gay. This is a gay. This is how gay people are treated in media. They're invisible. They're they could be 6-foot tall rabbits for all we know, and all they do is spark joy in everyone they interact with.
Yeah. So, so we have that, and then of course we have Bone Zone.
Yes, the Bone Zone just published our first 2 installments. I did that as like a special kind of Thanksgiving/Halloween treat. So if you like one video, you can just jump straight to the next one. You don't have to wait. Poultrygeist was a review of a movie I did not like, and Thanksgiving 1 and 3 was a review of 2 movies that I did like. So that should give you a bit of a sense about like the host's kind of frame of reference and his spectrum of what constitutes a good bad movie and a bad movie. And like what kind of comfort levels we're willing to sit through, versus like, you know, there might be some uncomfortable scenes, but is it still as a whole a good thing? And it is of course hosted by my new fursuit Rattles, who is a vulture, and it is this kind of overly convoluted idea that he's like this crypt keeper like character, but he eats movies and lives amongst bones. And also Bone Zone is a really tongue-in-cheek kind of title, just like Culturally Effed is rather tongue-in-cheek. Get Culturally Effed
It
right in
fits
the
well.
Bone Zone. It does, I
One
think.
of
And like it's the Bone Zone, it's furries. You think, oh boy, call the horny police. Or we gotta get a Shiba Inu to bonk these people.
and
But
then
no, it is very unhorny when you click on it.
yeah, the one of the reasons that I like the Bone Zone is we are sort of at a point in our culture where, like, we're examining the idea of, is this piece of media good or bad, and like it allows us to be a little more nuanced, thumbs up, thumbs down, than we could be in a tweet. Like, this movie is good except for this thing, or this movie is bad except for this thing. And, like, that is a much healthier way to look at media, because you can be like, okay, I like this movie, even though this part of it's terrible and stupid.
Yeah,
or,
like a movie can be really poorly written and acted, but that's also kind of what makes it fun to watch and tear apart. But a movie can also be those things and just be bad and not enjoyable.
Yeah, like it being bad doesn't mean that it can be ironically enjoyable. It can sometimes just mean it's bad. And that is one of the core concepts of Bone Zone, is that you can have it be an explanation of, is this good, is this bad?
Bone Zone came about partially because I was creating Rattles, and I was like, how can I put Rattles on the show? And also during the pandemic, we started streaming B-movies with my family. My brothers and their girlfriends and a couple of other friends. We would get together on a weekly like Discord stream and watch terrible movie after terrible movie, at least two. And we did that nearly weekly since, like, I don't know, week 2 of shutdown. And I was just like, we need to do a pick me up and pretend like the world isn't on fire. So
And
that's
it's
sort of kind of
a
all
good excuse
snowballed
to,
together. Yeah. And I was like, I'm watching all these B movies. I love B movies. There's a lot of furry ones, like Monsters of the Week and Creature Features. So, like, I think I got something here. And that's how Bone Zone got incepted. And I'd say from idea to like execution, I'd say was 6 months. Roughly, maybe more, maybe like a year. When did we start writing scripts?
But yeah, it's on that time scale. Like, that's what we're saying is, like,
And that's
you
from
will
like script writing to publish on the internet.
Yeah. So, but anyway, that's basically what this how our process works and the state of our channel, and we're at like what we feel is a good place for the health of the channel. Like, things are regularly coming out. We have like a rhythm for how we produce things. We have essentially seasons of content, and that's more sustainable than trying to, oh my gosh, every week I need another video forever.
Yeah, it's bad. You don't do that unless it's really short little bites like a TikTok or something. Like, don't burn yourself out. It's
and you'll notice
worth it.
You'll notice with our channel that we have like different types of media too. Like the audio content takes significantly less time than the video content, but is also a thing to post.
Yeah, I mean, that's like it. That's sort of why we're like classified as a magazine to the Ursa Majors, is because we have such a diversity of content. But for like the YouTube platform, it kind of works against us because we don't have like a consistent thing, because it's kind of always a little different, or it's about a different topic. And we'll do like a little mini series like Fursuit History, where it is kind of guided and focused. And we do see success there. Like, there's some really decent viewership numbers on those videos because people know what they're like they know what to expect and what they're getting. But then we'll come out of nowhere with something new, like a Pup Lift or a Bone Zone, and that kind of throws off our audience a little.
So, But yeah, ultimately, you guys, your takeaway should be from this panel, for me anyway, like, don't be afraid to make things just because you like it and are excited about it. Like, that enthusiasm will come through. You know?
Definitely.
Like,
And if you are burning out, take a break. Your audience will understand. The algorithm won't be forgiving, but your audience will be.
yeah, like,
And if you do force yourself to work through it, it will also reflect in your creation, and it will continue to be rough and won't blossom into what you want it to because you're too exhausted to do it properly. So, like, take your time. It's better to make quality over quantity, in my opinion. And as much as quality matters over quantity, it's better done than perfect. There's all of these little platitudes I have that I stick by.
To guard our sanity.
That's right. That's all we're trying to do. Is try not to go nuts.
So, well, thank you for joining us. We're happy to be here. You can find Culturally Effed on YouTube and Roku. Just Google Culturally Effed or punch it into YouTube. We will show up.
Yep.
We'll have a link in the description as well, where you can also buy our merch. Show off our merch, Arrkay.
We do have new merch. I kind of doubt anyone here will buy any, but it's an all-over print.
Hooray!
It is the show banner you will see when you get to our YouTube page or our Twitter page. Yeah, Culturally Effed, Twitter, Facebook, Weasel, Instagram, Fur Affinity. We also have a Patreon where we post videos early. So if you are keen to find out what Culturally Effed is posting or just want to toss us a couple of bucks, patreon.com/culturallyeffed. You can find me on Twitter at Arrkay the Bird. That's Arrkay with 2 R's. And you can find Tempo at Tempo Writes, Tempo_Writes. Which is it?
No, it's just Tempo Writes.
Tempo Writes is where you can find Tempo.
Yep. So, all right. Well, thanks for joining us, everybody. We'll be checking out the next panel.
Yeah. Thanks for having us. And good day. Good night, I guess. This is a late night panel.